Good morning and welcome everyone. I know we're still waiting on some people to join us, but hello, my name is Linda Oglesby, Committee Manager with the Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce, and we are very excited for today's event, our corporate social responsibilities, how businesses can create a bright and sustainable future. Before I pass it over to Jeremy, I just wanted to remind everyone, if you could please make sure that you are muted, as well as knowing that this meeting will be recorded. This event is recorded, and it will be posted and sent to all registries after. So as we're still joining, Jeremy, feel free to take it away.
All right, thanks, Linda. Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce and our Corporate Social Responsibility Committee, welcome to today's event. We're excited to have you all here. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to join us. I'm Jeremy Gadauskas, member of the CSR Committee. I've spent the last 16 years in higher education, in part teaching social innovation, sustainable business. So I'll be facilitating our event today, as Linda said, on how businesses can create a bright and sustainable future. And we've got a fantastic panel of guest experts that I'll introduce in just a minute. Before we start, though, just a few quick acknowledgements and shout outs. First, thanks to our CSR Committee, chaired by Beth Lopez of Phoenix, and our programming subcommittee chaired by Rick Lochner of RPC Leadership Associates. And all the members of our committee, especially for this event, though, I want to say thanks to Shafali Trivedi of Giving DuPage and Kathy Pulowski of IKEA for their help inviting our guests today. And of course, Casey Chitwood of the Alive Center, who you'll hear from in just a minute. Also, though, quick thanks to our marketing subcommittee for getting the word out. They're chaired by Paul Feith of Paul Gregory Media. And last but not least, of course, the great Linda Oglesby, who you just heard from the chamber. She's the glue for all of these committees, and she's running mission control today. So thanks to the Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce for the amazing work that they do helping businesses thrive. And that's really what today's program is all about, how local businesses can thrive by implementing and funding sustainability initiatives. As you know, running an environmentally friendly business is no longer really considered optional. Most, if not all, of your stakeholders expect it to some degree, from customers to investors to government officials. So our goal is to provide you with the tools to take your sustainability game to the next level and give you the latest information on what's going on right here in Naperville. So here's our plan. We can take a look at the agenda real quick. First, we will have Casey Chitwood share some highlights from the sustainability chapter of the CSR toolkit that our committee released late last year. Then we'll hear from Carl VanDril of Ness, the Naperville Environmental and Sustainability Task Force, and Ben Mjolsness of the City of Naperville about the city's plans to lead in this area. And then finally, we'll hear from Anna Maria Kowalik about incentives like the CPACE program that you can take advantage of to help fund sustainability initiatives. Finally, we'll take some time at the end for questions, so feel free to jot them down as we go, or better yet, if you can, post them into the chat at any time, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. Quickly, before I turn it over to Casey to dive into the sustainability resources in the CSR toolkit, I wanted to provide just a quick overview of its scope. So the toolkit was created specifically for local businesses to understand corporate social responsibility and really to know where to start. It starts by discussing the importance of values and culture as the bedrock of your CSR efforts, and then it tackles the 4 pillars of CSR: volunteerism, philanthropy, sustainability, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. So you can find out more about our CSR committee, and you can download a copy of the toolkit at the links that will be provided. We'll get those posted at some point, so feel free to check those out to find out more about what we've done and what we're doing. All right, so to get us started, Casey Chitwood is here. We're excited to have Casey with us as part of our committee too. Casey represents the local nonprofit teen center that you're probably aware of, called the Alive Center, where young people can take advantage of free drop-in hours after school. It's a really cool space where they can learn and pursue new interests in a safe environment. Casey's passion is youth empowerment. She's got over 25 years of account management and development experience with a long history of community service. So welcome, Casey.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Excellent. Well, I look so forward to spending some time with you discussing the benefits and the resources that our committee has prepared in the CSR toolkit. We're going to talk a little bit today about why sustainability is important, as well as what are some things you can do to develop discussion and begin to create a long-term strategy around sustainability that will allow us as organizations in our community to thrive. On the previous slide, you may have noticed there is a space to download the CSR toolkit. So much of what I'm going to speak to you about today can also be found in that toolkit as a resource that the CSR committee has provided for businesses and members of the chamber. So I want to just start with just a little bit of messaging this morning. I think both of these quotes are found in the toolkit. And it's just such an important message to remember that we are really paving the way to profitability, and that what really is the bottom line is that we all want to remain sustainable for the long term. So why is sustainability important to any business? Climate change severely impacts opportunities for communities, customers, and our employees to prosper. As humans, we have created this problem, and that means we have to be the ones to solve it. The good news is many of the solutions to climate change already exist, and we are going to hear about many of them today. I want to thank you all for being here and being interested in this important conversation. We're going to start with just some interesting facts and percentages regarding what consumers want from the companies that they buy from. So as you can see, 87% of American consumers will make a purchase because a company advocated for an issue that they care about. And keep in mind that 63% of Americans want corporations to drive social and environmental change in absence of government action. So those of us taking on this mantle are being leaders in such an important path to the future. Our prosperity is linked to a sustainable, healthy planet. And without adapting our business environments to focus on efforts which ensure sustainability, we really only hurt ourselves. So this program today is a great way to begin this focus. The bottom line is sustainability is good for business. So why is sustainability important to any business? Developing a sustainable strategy will improve energy efficiency and save money. It builds brand loyalty, both internally and externally, and it helps us retain employees and shareholders. And it's important that we ensure our strategy for sustainability will endure and become a part long-term of our brand and culture. We all know the importance of public relations and increased media coverage in a positive light. We want to support our consumers' interest, and we want to help them support brands that they perceive as serving a higher purpose than profit. Sustainability will allow your business to innovate and fulfill a moral obligation to act in the best interest of the public and our planet. So how do you begin to focus on sustainability? It really starts with asking the right questions. This can prompt a meaningful discussion, resulting in key strategies that can be implemented and measured. A great first step is to ask your employees about the causes they are passionate about. Here are a few questions to get you started. There is a comprehensive list in our CSR toolkit for you to refer to further. Aside from those listed on the slide, other examples would include how can the items we supply for our employees, such as meals, drinking water, and office space, be responsibly procured? And how can we show leadership within our industry? Can we collaborate with our customers, our local government, and other business partners? And how can we ensure our strategy endures? What will these efforts look like in the future? Can we allow room in our sustainability strategy to expand into new and improved initiatives in 10, 15, even 20 years to come? Once this information is gathered, management employees may assess the results and determine what they can implement. The key is to start small. and build the program with employee involvement and engagement so that it truly becomes part of your culture. This means that your plan must be tailored to fit your business model. Pilot a few volunteer activities at first by starting small and assess those results so that you can work together to set a longer-term plan. This is an opportunity for your organization to be pioneering. It's always important to revisit and ensure your efforts are attainable, as well as reframe those that were not successful. This is an amazing opportunity, again, to be groundbreaking. So once you've begun to start small and developed some efforts towards sustainability, you want to make sure that you've built in the ability to measure their impact. So as we often like to say, we need to measure what matters. It's important to consider both the internal and the external impacts of your sustainability strategy. From an internal perspective, it's important to be sure to survey your employees to gauge their interest. Of course, implement actions and track and report results. Also report those employees' experience by tracking their employee satisfaction. Consider how sustainability allows you to track turnover. And does this higher purpose assist you in retaining employees? As well as how it affects our external environment. It's important to track new customers, especially those that may indicate that your commitment to sustainability actually influences their decision to use your products or services. Don't forget to build and promote awareness about your efforts in sustainability, and most importantly, share your results and celebrate those achievements both publicly as well as internally. It's important to remember this is a long-term sustainable plan, so it does require a commitment to long-term results and efforts. Of course, increasingly important to embed sustainability in all aspects of your culture. One way to do that, again, is to engage employees. We ask ourselves, what do we want to be known for? What is our company known for now? The deeper the engagement by the organization, by your employees, your stakeholders, it really indicates the greater value to all. So we ask ourselves additional questions as we begin to embark on this new initiative. How does sustainability tie into our values? Will it inspire people to live more sustainably? And how can we be sure that our efforts can be made ongoing and that our employees can continue to be engaged, ensuring that our efforts are, of course, business specific and always to measure that they are attainable? Again, remaining committed to our long-term goals. This is sustainable in the future.
Thank you, Casey. Jeremy, if you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. Yeah, I was saying Casey was just talking about embedding sustainability into your culture. I think it's a lot easier to do that if it's already embedded into your community and it's surrounding you. And the city of Naperville is really working to do just that. Our next guest represents Ness, the Naperville Environmental and Sustainability Task Force, a group of very talented volunteers who spent, I think, 2 years producing an amazing report called Sustainable Naperville 2036. Which features about 100 recommendations covering nearly 300 pages, which is just amazing. So here to share more about it is Carl VanDril. Carl is the chair of the City Engagement Committee for Ness and is a retired vice president at Blue Cross Blue Shield, where he headed IT quality assurance and various engineering and support functions. Thanks for joining us, Carl.
Great, it's great to be here. Thanks so much. So can you hear me okay?
Yep. Sounds good.
Okay, so I'll take the first half of this and then we'll move to Ben Mjolsness because as time goes on, hopefully our efforts become seamless and very connected and collaborative. Ben working with the city and myself, as you mentioned, being a co-chair of our city engagement team with Kathy Clarkin, who is also on the meeting as well here today. And I'll take you through what we have done with this Naperville, Sustainable Naperville 2036 report over the last few years. So next slide. So I'll describe who's Ness, and of course the report that we have established, and and throughout the whole discussion, what are the challenges that face us in making a real impact on making Naperville a sustainable community. Next slide. So I like to start with, these are some important people in my life. The two and the three little ones are my grandkids from my two daughters, and my daughter and her husband on the lower right. And this is actually connected with the syndrome that I've got. It's called environmental anxiety. Okay, I think increasingly amongst people, especially young people, looking at our future for a sustainable world to live in. And I think about the wonders of living in Naperville. My family is a wonderful outcome of hopefully good parenting by me and my wife, but also great schools, great library, just a great community. And I think there was just in the last day or two another award to Naperville schools for just being a great place to be. And we spend all this time and effort, to make sure that they have a bright future. And that includes, childcare and everything else. And then I wonder about the environment, and it creates anxiety with me. And when I read this past summer, this report, I was very much motivated to join that group and see what can be done to help move this, this forward in a positive way. Next slide. So Ness was founded about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, as a group of concerned citizens coming together with some good knowledge of how to tackle climate issues and sustainable issues. And it morphed into a connected entity with the city as a official city task force with expectations of deliverables and recommendations so that the city could take some action. And to create that sustainability plan for Naperville with about 50 volunteers from many professions. Next slide. So our mission, and we, Kathy Clarkin, our chair, overall chair, always reads this at every meeting, so we stay focused. The Naperville Environment and Sustainability Task Force was established to assist, inform, and advise administrative and elected officials of the city of Naperville in identifying and prioritizing sustainability initiatives for the community in order to ensure a high standard of livability, achieve sustainable management of natural resources, and to maintain our economic prosperity. And we go back to this every time. Next slide. And as you can see, there's a breadth of volunteers. I participated in a planning session. It was my first meeting with the task force this past summer, and I was amazed at the skill, background, and ideas that so many different people from so many different domains of, and this gives you a sense as to the professional background and educational background, but also we have a diversity of age, of people who are old and wise like myself, and maybe young and energetic. So there's a really good mix here that has contributed to this overall effort. And if you look at it, kind of an org chart of how we've broken up the work, I mean, this is what we have. We have the major disciplines of sustainability, energy, transportation, mobility, waste, natural resources, and building and development. And then we add to that just a really powerful team that has put measures and metrics to all the recommendations that we've made so that we can, with objectivity, understand the impact that various things can have on making Naperville a more sustainable environment. In the upper left, you see city leadership. We have a focus there as well, understanding that the city needs to be a very important leading entity in many of these things, both in what is legislated and worked through from the normal city side, but also just to be an example for the rest of our citizenry to drive to. And that's where the connection with Ben comes, and he'll be taking us through how what we have been doing connects in with how the city now is operating in his new job as city coordinator for sustainability. Next slide. So this is the report, okay, and I put a link in here and also at the end so that if you want to read all of those close to 300 pages, you can. The executive summary is terrific as far as getting a really good sense, but I'm going to take you also through just kind of the domains that we've gone through and some of the recommendations that we've gone through. But looking at it, why are we doing this? Let's remind ourselves, Naperville must be a participant in lowering greenhouse gas emissions. And we kind of view this as a climate emergency. And we've set our targets to match those of the IPCC, Intergovernment Plan for Climate Change. It's a UN entity that kind of sets targets and really consolidates all of the important science and makes the recommendations of how to move. Paris Climate Accord was also patterned after them. And we believe that inaction is more costly than action, the efforts and the damage and the cleanup, any way you look at it, the economic benefit of sustainability is very important, okay? So if we look at, kind of the current state, if we look at our current emission sources on the upper left, you see that about a quarter is from our vehicles, us driving around, the city driving around, citizens driving around. That's, about 25%, and the rest of it is from our buildings, 76%, and that comes in mostly, it's all electricity and natural gas. And in order for us to meet the targets, we drive to a 60% reduction by the year 2036, which translates to about 4% every year. So that's a bit of a challenge. Next slide. So if we kind of look at our recommendations and how we've gone through, so city leadership, we have a large section of the document that really focuses on how we now make sustainability a part of doing business, operationalize the sustainability within how the city looks at things, and to also be a coordinating entity for the community at large. Okay, and this is a big piece of what Kathy and I are working in, again, with Ben on making this just a normal piece of business with the city. Next. So if we look at energy, the focus here is how we can drive improvements in both electricity and natural gas. But I highlight the first item is because this is probably the biggest challenge that we have. What most people don't understand is that with Naperville having our own utility, we have our own power company, if you will, that's supported by the city. We don't have Commonwealth Edison as most other suburbs or entities would have. So we purchase our power through an agreement, and that current agreement is that I hear different numbers. 80% or so of our power within Naperville comes from coal-generated power source. And we think we will not make our targets unless we are able to affect this and drive this down to more zero emission energy as soon as possible. And that has its sets of challenges because of contracts and everything, none of which I'm going to go in with you today. But this is probably one of the biggest challenges, both for our city leaders as well as the rest of us, to understand what is the positive action moving forward. And beyond that, you can see we have objectives to internalize consumed energy from within our municipal boundaries, kind of a common approach, as well as some other things. Next slide. Transportation and mobility focuses really on the electrification of transportation, both within city vehicles, our school districts and buses, but also just the citizenry in general, but then in advocating public transportation and reducing our vehicle miles. And you'll notice all of these things have community engagement, and education is an important part of it. Okay, next. Waste is also an important. This is one of the more tangible things, the things that we handle every day: increasing recycling, reusing, and improving how we deal with waste overall. And again, that community engagement and education on this as well. Next slide. The natural environment is a great sequestration of carbon. So maintaining our urban forest, planting trees, doing deep root of replacing lawns, for example, with deep root, more prairie friendly environments can all help in sequestration as well as reduced water usage. Next slide. And then building and development. So as we have building codes and we iterate those, making buildings more energy efficient as we build new and modify, and improving the advocating for solar, et cetera. So that's an important aspect, one of the teams that we've got in place as well. So what can business do? You know, I think Casey got it covered. I mean, business is a key part of this. The report has filters on it looking through what citizens can do, what business can do. And I think Casey did a much better job explaining that. So I am not going to go through any of that, but business is a really important piece of this. And then, you know, lastly, before I turn it over to Ben, the how we operate, how Nest operates, I think is a really important piece. This is not just us flipping over a whole bunch of recommendations to the city and say, go do it. This is a continued collaborative effort. This is one where we connect with business, with citizenry, where we're trying to promote the message of what we're trying to do here to both understand, but also to get input. We understand some of these things may be difficult. We want to understand that and be a participant in overall best practices with consideration of how it impacts and helping people through these sorts of changes. So that's a big part of Nest's mindset. Okay. And last slide for me is, as you see opportunities where we can connect with, you know, other business organizations, with other, you know, organizations that you're a part of, please let us know. We are all pieces of the puzzle working towards doing this. So I'll turn it over to Ben now.
Thanks, Carl. Appreciate that. Just a reminder, everyone, if you have comments or questions, feel free to post those in the chat. We'll get to those as soon as we can, or at the end, we'll have time for questions. To Shafali's question, yeah, there will be a recording made available after the event through the Chamber's website. Yeah, Carl mentioned Ben. I'll give Ben a quick intro. For his section, Ben was hired just recently in June 2021 as the city's first sustainability coordinator. Ben works collaboratively with city staff, sister agencies, businesses, other organizations, and stakeholders to advance sustainability goals and reduce Naperville's contribution to climate change. Ben, I would imagine that when you first started your job and all of a sudden this 300-page report lands on your desk, I don't know, is that a blessing or a challenge? But yeah, take us through what Naperville's doing.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Thanks to everybody who's part of this call and to the Chamber and all of you wonderful businesses. It's very exciting to be here. And actually, that was a great intro, Jeremy, to this report. So I started in June and we received the Sustainable Naperville 2036 report in August, ahead of an August 31st workshop with City Council. And that was a partnership between Ness and the city. So yeah, I started with a lot to kind of comb through. And really what I did in the couple months that we did have a summary of the 90 plus, nearly 100 recommendations across all sectors from Nest ahead of the report. So what I did is I got to work right away with city leadership. That's the city manager, the deputy city manager, my boss, who's the director of the city services or community services department, and then the directors of all city departments and all of their kind of subject matter experts in these different disciplines, whether we're talking about buildings, building codes, inspections, or we're talking about Naperville's fleet and alternative fuels, to how we take care of all of the grass that the city maintains and how we take care of all of the trees that we lost in the June tornado. So going through this process, it was a lot to take in, but yeah, it's a good question, Jeremy. It really is a blessing to be able to have all of these really talented folks as part of Nest who really care and are willing to put in time and effort and energy to help us, to help me and everybody else across the city figure out what we need to think about as we make decisions and make plans for the future. So I'll kind of frame large or give a broad stroke overview of how we did this. So I had probably 6 or 7 long form meetings with the city manager and various directors of departments, and we combed through over and over the list of recommendations from Nest to figure out, you know, how close are we to being able to affect change here? Is this something where we can kind of get to writing a policy right away and pass it? Do we need city council approval? How does this recommendation maybe line up with our long-term contracts for waste and recycling or electricity purchase, which is a high-profile item right now for obvious reasons. And so going through that process, we wanted to set some priorities because we had to start somewhere. And so what we did is we kind of grouped it into, we've got the, what are we already working on? What's underway? What have we completed? And then what is an immediate plan? So that is starting now, hopefully in place, completed, or at least ongoing by the end of 2022. And then a longer term. So when we're thinking about really larger scale renewable energy projects that are going to be expensive, that we need funding for, or we're working with partners to update our energy codes. We've got to think about what the Illinois Conservation Code is going to be and different updates from other entities that we partner with on that stuff. So I'm kind of going to give you, I'm not going to read through all of these different strategies. I'm just going to give you a couple highlights to give you an example of what fit into these different categories. So completed or underway, obviously I got hired. It was a position that had to get created by council. And like I said, I'm very happy to be here. It's a dream job for me. We also, one of my first tasks was I reestablished what we used to have years ago, which was an interdepartmental sustainability team. So various people from different departments across city government, I have as part of a smaller team that I meet with at least monthly to talk about what their department's doing, talk about how we can work together and bring forward some new ideas. We also are working in our Department of Public Works Fleet Management Department, we're working on a plan to transition at least 60% of all of our light duty fleet vehicles, and that's close to 200 vehicles across the city to either alternative fuel, hybrid electric, or electric by 2030. Would love to flip a switch and go all EV electric vehicle by then, but we've got cost considerations. We're working with taxpayer dollars, and new technologies emerging. So if we could move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. So in the same category, one of the things we worked with Ness on is we had Ness draft a letter to be shared with developers of new construction projects, whether it's homes or commercial projects. They created a letter that our team shares with all developers who are going through the permit review process during their concept meetings. So it gives them an opportunity to take a step back and think, well, what can I do to make my development, my project more sustainable? It offers Nest as a resource if they have questions or want to consult further. So that's just one example of how we work together. Just the first step. It's going to be a lot more like that in the years to come. If we can move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the immediate plan. One of the things we're working on that's a big part, Carl mentioned this in his part of the presentation, is that education, outreach, and engagement is a core piece of everything that's part of Nest report, and it's a core piece of how we think we're going to be able to affect change and bring everybody in to be part of the conversation and share ideas and resources. We have an emerging leaders program here within the city, which is an 18-month-long program. It's a combination of classroom learning, mentorships, and special projects that individuals who have been here for at least a year in their position can apply to be part of this program. And as part of this, there are going to be two different teams starting in January of 2022 through mid-2023. They'll have two different group projects. One is related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the other is on a sustainability and climate change outreach and engagement campaign. It's going to be citywide. It's going to touch all different stakeholders, from sister agencies and houses of worship to businesses and students and just everyday residents. So it's really exciting. We're working hard on it, and we'll continue to always field questions and be here as a resource. So all of this stuff is here. If you want to take a look at the slides later, if you have questions, get in touch with me anytime. I'm happy to talk through ideas or just, what does this look like in action? But for the last couple minutes, I wanted to move on to something that I think is really important to this audience, your group as business owners and operators, employees, is what can you do? I think really important right now is to move toward, we talk about trying to reduce our carbon emissions by 4% per year. Well, we've got to start, while we do have a contract that does involve some amount of coal power, we got to start with efficiency. So energy efficiency is a great way to cut waste right away. So we have a focus on energy efficiency and also a renewable energy program where we offer grants and incentives to businesses for a whole host of renewable energy. It can be solar panels, it can be solar water heating, it can be wind turbines, which you don't see too many of here in downtown Naperville, but all sorts of opportunities to get some funding to help install renewable energy at your business. So that's there. Please reach out. We've got money. We want to spend it and produce more renewable energy here in Naperville. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a really important thing for me. More important than renewable energy grant program is energy efficiency grants. So the city of Naperville gets grant money from IMEA, our electricity provider, on a 3-year cycle. And that's to fund non-residential, so business and other large entities, energy efficiency programs. So it could be more efficient light installations inside your business or manufacturing facility, outside in your parking lots. It could be installing more efficient fans and motors in your equipment, upgrades to your HVAC equipment, better refrigeration technology. We have money that we have to use. It's a really great mechanism to be able to help you install these programs to reduce not only your energy use, but also your costs on a weekly, monthly, annual basis. So it's a great opportunity. I've got a team that I work with who are the experts on this. So please reach out. We want to spend this money with you. And then next slide, please. Nicor Gas is the provider of natural gas here in and around Naperville for your heat. We work with them, on some alternative fuels and things like that. They have some amazing incentives that they offer to businesses and residents. But for the purposes of this call, they'll come out with their team. They'll do free energy audits of your facility, help you figure out what kind of energy efficiency upgrades they can help you with funding and their expertise. They also do custom incentives for special programs that you can pitch to them. So if you have an idea for a project that will reduce energy use, they're open to hearing about it. And if they can quantify it and make sense of it, then they'll definitely work with you. They can also help with financing some of these things for these kind of bigger ticket items. So incentives, they're there. We want everybody to take advantage of them. It's money that needs to be spent, and it needs to be spent on the right things. It'll really help us get a leg up on being more sustainable, fighting climate change. So that's it for me for now. Reach out anytime. I'm here as a resource and look forward to working with all of you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Ben. If any of you took notes, it should have been at least one line that you wrote down is that Ben has money and he wants to spend it. So I do think that's one of the biggest questions that local businesses might have in implementing sustainability initiatives. How do I fund this? How do I afford it? It does require some upfront investment to see the long-term savings. So it's great to hear about those incentives, which is actually a great transition to our next guest. Anna Maria Kowalik is with us to talk about the CPACE program. Ms. Kowalik has extensive experience in the commercial real estate and the property and asset management industries. She's currently the Senior Vice President and Director of Business Development for Inland Green Capital, LLC. And she's also representing the Illinois Energy Conservation Authority, or the IECA. She's responsible for the business development of the Illinois CPACE program, which is an innovative sustainability financing option through the nonprofit IECA. So within Inland Green Capital, which is the for-profit capital provider group, she has been instrumental in closing the first 3 CPACE deals in the state of Illinois. So we're so glad to have her with us. Welcome, Anna Maria.
Thank you very much for the introduction. And actually, I want to thank everyone for attending today. This is a very important topic, all these topics that have preceded me. In fact, I want to give a couple of kudos out. Casey, in talking about sustainability goals and everything, well, commercial property assessed clean energy, or CPACE as we call it, is a perfect partner in achieving many of those goals. What Carl had said about buildings being the most non-efficient consumer of energy and the emitter of so many CO2 equivalents into our atmosphere is absolutely true and correct. And that is what CPACE also tries to bring to the fore and help improve. What Ben was saying about this being a dream job. In fact, that's the way I feel about what I do every day. I feel like I'm improving the atmosphere and the community one deal at a time. This is a very impactful program that can help address what Jeremy said. The biggest challenge and obstacle today in attaining a lot of these goals and moving forward is the lack of money. And so, although Ben did explore some of the possibilities of grants and other things that can assist a commercial property owner in doing their projects, that doesn't quite fulfill the entire capital stack for them. They still have a need for money, and sometimes an emergency situation will come up and they'll want to be adding some sort of energy efficiency component to their project, but oh darn, I didn't put it in my budget for this year, or I have to raid my capital reserves. Well, with the commercial property assessed clean energy program, you can get up to 100% financing without any capital outlay, without having to worry about any of these aforementioned questions, but actually just depend on the value of the property and the value of the project. So let's go on to the next couple of slides, please. Linda might be having a little trouble moving the slides along. There we go. Okay, so as Jeremy said, I represent two companies. Actually, the IECA is an Illinois nonprofit organization, which was established with seed money and support from the Inland Green Capital Group, because here CPACE was coming to our own backyard and we wanted to be involved in the administration. And so the program administrator acts as the facilitator between all the deal stakeholders and the government officials, because CPACE is what its name says it is, property assessed clean energy. And so this is a debt instrument which is repaid via the tax bill as a special assessment mechanism. But it doesn't affect any of your neighbors. It affects only the property being improved. It doesn't go through the assessment process, merely through the county's treasurer's office. And becomes a lien on the property, but it's a very effective way of getting private equity investment in private projects. In fact, it's kind of important to note what the history is across the nation. This was a public-private partnership initiative started by the Department of Energy federally and the University of California at Berkeley, in trying to find a way to advance sustainable measures with aging building stock, with new developments that were coming online, something to go beyond the LEED a little bit, because LEED is automatically efficient, but then, you know, how do we bring up other properties to that kind of same standard? And so this was developed since the the mechanism is through the tax bill. Of course, it had to be legislated state by state. And once the legislation takes place, setting forth an establishment of a program, that's where a program administrator comes into play, and having a uniform set of documents and being able to work with all the counties. Here in Illinois, as you can well see, we have right now 10 active and launched counties, with 3 more going to county board next month. So we'll have 13 under the belt before the end of the year, and about 6 more coming online in first quarter of 2022. Next slide. You can see that CPACE has been established in 37 states, with actually 24 of those having active programs to date. But this is a very incremental process, and in the first year you might have a couple of deals that pass, and that may grow exponentially within the first 5 years and beyond. So you can see that since the first deals were closed in 2011 through 2019, this has more than quintupled across the nation, and here in the state of Illinois, already in the 2 years that we have been operating, 13 deals have closed under the CPACE program administered by the Illinois Energy Conservation Authority. Next slide. So what is CPACE? So basically, it's a financing tool that assists commercial property owners with energy efficiency improvements on their properties, renewable energy, water conservation, electrical vehicle infrastructures, and even new technologies that we have not yet today become aware of, but that are in the offing. In fact, one of the things that comes to mind was something that Ben said about wind turbines. And although you won't see those very prevalently in the urban locations, but they are working right now on reducing the size and increasing the power and scope of rooftop type units and turbines that would assist with an HVAC component. And so basically, there are new things happening all the time, which makes this such an exciting industry to be involved with. So basically, we had talked about that the legislation here in Illinois is what impacts CPACE being available to DuPage County. And that's the reason I am here today to discuss its impact in this county as well. And there's an advantage to having the CPACE mechanism through the tax bill, because it runs with the land in real estate terms. So this is a fully transferable type of product. It's fixed rate, long term, and should the property change hands, either by way of best case scenario, a sale of the property after the improvements have been done, or with worst case scenario, a bankruptcy or foreclosure of the property, the PACE loan stays with the land until it's fully satisfied. And so it transfers with the next ownership. So the private portion of the public-private partnership of CPACE then becomes the individual private equity investment in private properties. And so that's a very important component to be aware of. Next slide. So what types of commercial properties are qualified, or what types of properties can take part in advantage of this program? Well, anything from office, industrial, manufacturing, retail, healthcare, hospitality, even nonprofits on a case-by-case basis, along with agricultural, working farms. With the nonprofits and the agricultural, a little more proof of ability to pay because of perhaps taxes not being assessed on the properties, or whether or not there's enough income, et cetera. Multifamily that is leased and 5 units or greater are considered commercial properties. So we can help with improvements to commercial multifamily 5 units and greater. Any type of renovation, equipment installation, adaptive reuse, and renewable energy projects, not to say, as well as, just new construction and even refinancing. So what's the refinance component? Here in the state of Illinois, we allow a look back under the program. Say, for example, you didn't know about PACE and you had just recently completed a project that included some renewable energy features, or created great efficiencies to your property. You could ask for a look back on the last. You've done this within the last 18 to 24 months. The program will consider your application and would be able to recapitalize you in this instance. So it's a very great flexible program for a community. On to the next slide. All of the various eligible improvements that I've already discussed here, a little bit further detail. And certainly these are great economic development tools on older historic buildings that need to be rehabbed and brought up to speed. As well as business retention opportunities for a landlord who has multi-tenants in a particular building. And so great eligible improvements. On to the next slide. So why would you do this? Again, for financing of up to 100%. And when we say up to, it is subject to certain legislative requirements, such as here in Illinois, the loan PACE to the value of the property cannot exceed 25%. And then, of course, together with all combined loans on the property, the combined loan to value cannot exceed anywhere from 85 to 100% of the value of the property, dependent on the risk tolerance of the capital provider giving the funding. On to the next. It is a more cost-effective, greater use of funds in the scheme of things when you compare capital stacks with and without PACE. And I'm not going to spend too much time here except to say that PACE is a great replacement for other mezzanine funding, especially when it comes to a rehab or an improvement to an existing property. And then it's a great partner in the capital stack, not replacing any of those incentives that Ben was talking about, or any other kinds of grants or credits that are available to the commercial property owner, but merely working side by side with each of these. So it's an additional source. On to the next slide. I've already gone over some of the statutory requirements. When you all have the opportunity to take a look at this slideshow and the recording afterwards, you'll have some great resources here. Continue on. There is a whole transactional process that's very simple. Basically, the property owner gets started, goes through a capital provider who then takes the project, approves it, underwrites it, brings it to the county, puts the assessment on the property, and then when the taxes get paid, the loan gets repaid through that process. On to the next slide. There are many participating capital providers, of which my company, Inland Green Capital, who pays my salary. I'm a volunteer on the IECA side, doing promotion and education of CPACE, but I actually do deals across the nation through Inland Green Capital, and there are many other great sources of capital available to the provider here, to the property owner here in the state of Illinois. Next slide. We have a lot of resources on our website, www.iecapace.org, mentioned down below here. There are about 7 steps to getting started, basically just confirming eligibility, developing the energy project. Every CPACE project must have an energy assessment proving up its value and energy savings, because the whole premise of CPACE was that the benefit obtained would outweigh or at least balance with in some way the loan liability on the bill. And so on to the next. There's, of course, the securing of financing, the internal approvals through the program, and with the county closing on the financing, actually doing the installation, and then repaying the debt. On to the next. Mortgage lender consent is very important for all transparency's sake, and it's part of the law here in the state of Illinois. So if there is a mortgage, it's important that the commercial property owner obtain lender consent, as this is also the outstanding debt on the mortgage is taken into account in the underwriting of the financing. Next step. Applications, very easy to go to our website, file a pre-application to see if you are qualified as a commercial property owner regarding your property and regarding the project. Always 2 main components to every deal, the property and the project. If you do or don't have a capital provider or a contractor that you're working with, our website also has these resources. Next slide. You can go to the website, and under the resources tab, one can look at registered contractors. They go through a vetting process under our system. And so there's a great list available to you of people who have either done work with CPACE in the past or are looking forward to doing that work. Next slide. So I just want to briefly go over 2 quick case studies here, both in the County of DuPage. The very first deal that was closed here in the state of Illinois was on an industrial flex facility. And what that means is it's warehouse and combination office space. This was done in I'm trying to think now, just lost, I think it was Wooddale, Illinois. Yes, Wooddale, Illinois. And it was the re-roofing and solar PV installation on top of this almost 24,000 square foot facility. And so energy savings, as you can tell, saved almost 72 metric tons of CO2 equivalent from the environment. Next slide. And another great project right in Elmhurst, an older 1968 build office building that merely did a retrofit of windows. Couldn't have a happier property owner who since the installation back in November of 19, by February of 2020, they had noticed an extreme drop in their electric and gas bills, and we're very happy that they took part in this process. Unfortunately, 2020 has posed a lot of different challenges for everyone with COVID, and so some of the savings that we might have seen for a better story, quote unquote, to date is kind of difficult because then people started not going back to the office and working from home. And so some of those metrics are a little bit skewed, but should be stabilizing again soon. But this also brings up a component that resiliency is allowed here in the state of Illinois as a qualifying project. And the new wellness, quote unquote, types of improvements, such as air purification along with an HVAC replacement, would qualify under PACE financing eligible measures. So on to the next slide. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to contact us. Truly appreciate your attention to this program, and hopefully we can help you with CPACE financing or any questions that you have. The DuPage County CPACE program was the second program developed here in the state of Illinois, and they are very anxious to help you and very excited to help you move your sustainable project forward. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks so much, Anna Maria. A lot of really good information there, and I really appreciate the examples too. That helps kind of bring it to life and see how businesses can take advantage of it. We're going to take some time for some questions and discussion. Right now, we've got some time, so if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put those in the chat, or you can use the hand raise feature up by the emojis up there, or you can just shout out if you don't know how to find those. Before we do that, while you're thinking, just a quick call out to something that Kathy Clarkin posted in the chat there. Kathy's the chair of Ness and was also really helpful in developing this program today, but she just offered help, support that Ness could provide for local businesses, and you can note her email and website in the chat there as well, as long with the links from the aforementioned grants and incentive programs. Also, thanks, Ben, for posting your email there as well. Ben's happy to help you in any way that he can as well. So let's just see if there's any questions or comments. I'd love to hear, what people are thinking about all this information, maybe things people have tried successfully or not to implement. So we'll just open it up and see who has any questions or comments. So maybe as you're thinking, Carl and Ben, I'm wondering, just as the Nest report was created, obviously you were looking at what other cities are doing in sustainability. I'm just curious, how does Naperville and our local businesses kind of rate in terms of what other areas, municipalities, and cities are doing?
Ben, do you want to try that, or I have a couple of words too, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I think in some ways we're ahead, in others we're behind, and others were on the same path. It's really, there's a range of what cities and towns and villages have decided to fund and prioritize over the years. We've got some really great energy efficiency programs that the city has done because we have our own utility, and the same goes for water conservation through leak detection programs and real-time monitoring. But we might be behind, for example, in having like a comprehensive climate change action plan. So, there are different things that have been focused on. This report from Ness really helps us see from an outside perspective, what some of the opportunities are and some things that we should really consider as we're making plans and setting priorities and doing things like creating, drafting the green procurement policies. So yeah, work in progress. Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, I was just going to add, in full disclosure, I actually went to one of the Ness meetings back when it was just getting formed, and it wasn't the right thing for me to join at that time, but I do remember the discussion at that particular meeting was looking at other municipalities, primarily around Chicago, but also outside. Like Evanston had a fairly comprehensive sustainability plan that they had, I think they had just laid out. And others that I don't quite remember that, we aspire to catch up, if you will, and I think we've made great progress. One of the metrics that that I think is really important, when we look at ourselves versus others is, this situation that we have with the majority of our power coming from coal. If we look at any other, let's say in general, Illinois entity, others, that's served by a utility, even though there's evidence that we have, a fairly good start on renewable energy, solar. There was a solar installation that was recently brought online in support by IECA. But if we look at our carbon footprint, we are at least, if not more than twice the average, and it's because of our coal. Okay. And so that's, so we can say goodness, but we also, I think, have to acknowledge where we are behind and where we aspire to drive that to a much better state in the future. And I think that goes back to that challenge. That's probably the biggest one in navigating through the contract that we have, and the ability of our electricity provider that wholesales to Naperville, through that contract, and doing it in such a way that is respectful of the contract, but also challenging to how we move it forward. And so that's really how I react to that question, and what, where's Naperville. I am confident that we can do a great job, because in general, Naperville is just a great community that's very active and moves. And in so many of the domains that are laid out in the Ness report, and especially in that, now we're putting our money where our mouth is. We have hired a sustainability coordinator. This means something to us, and I'm confident that we can move the ball forward. But just really zeroing in on some of those biggest challenges, I think, is where our heavy lifting may be. Okay.
That's great. Thanks, guys. And I would imagine the first step is always getting an honest assessment of where you're at, and then a plan to move forward and improve. So it sounds like that's what's happening with the Ness report. So that's great. There's a few questions that I'll call out, all three of them related to funding assistance and grants and incentive programs. And then whoever feels capable of answering them can go ahead and do that. So I think the first one, thanks, Maureen, was how long does the process take from initiating a request for funding assistance to actually getting the cash? That's an important question. And then another one was, are there common mistakes you see as people apply for some of these assistance programs? And then Shefali was just confirming that, yes, I think from what I heard, but confirmed that it's possible for a property owner to take advantage of the CPACE program and the city and state's grants. So those of you on the panel, if you want to respond to any of those three.
Yes, well, certainly, like I said, CPACE works in conjunction with all of those incentives. As far as timing goes, because it is a loan product, and because it does go through varying levels, there's there's the application, initial underwriting, then there's the approval through the program administration, and then through the county. So it is a process that can run anywhere, depending on how all the components pieces come together, can be at least minimally 3 weeks to maybe 60 days, 90 days, depending on how long it takes to pull all the varying pieces together. Of course, there's the energy assessment and the lender consent. And so sometimes things that are outside of the program's control that are happening among these varying parties, can play a difference in how long it takes. But from a CPACE perspective, that's what I would say.
Thanks, Anna Maria. And I'm assuming each of those programs, there's probably different timelines for it, but it's good to hear an example of that one. Maybe I'll call out Shafali's question. I think it's a good one just to get feedback from anyone who's on the meeting. But what's one easy to implement idea that anyone can do? And think of this, as she says, from the perspective of an individual or a family, or from a business perspective. So any just tips on what folks can do to at least take the first step? Go ahead, Ben. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually just typed the first thing I would do into the chat. And really, I think from a carbon emissions perspective, but also from a cost perspective, what I would do first is reduce waste in your energy use, through using energy efficient lighting, switching from incandescent and even CFLs now to LED, which last longer. They use 80% less energy than an incandescent. And we've got a bunch of free ones. So come and see me if you want some free LED light bulbs for your home or your business. But also through weatherization, right now we're seeing cooler weather come in. So making sure that you use, if you have a leaky door at the bottom, use a door sweep. You can caulk around windows where there's an opening. There's also funding for more energy efficient windows and for attic insulation and things like that. But I think really the first step is by simple solutions to cutting wasted electricity and wasted natural gas and wasted water.
And for the commercial property owner, to add to what Ben just said, the next step is to actually consider CPACE. Now that you know about it, you know it exists, you know basically how it works. Find out about it, put in a pre-application, and we'll help you through the process.
That's great. Good examples. Anyone else have suggestions or things they've tried or they've heard other folks trying? Anyone on the call, welcome to contribute.
No, but
or Ben, do you have any? I was going to say, Ben, do you have anything else that's free instead of just money and bulbs? But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it, Jeremy. I think Ben keeps burying the lead. He's got free LED bulbs to give out, and he has grant dollars he's sitting on. Talk about, like, that should have been in the program description.
Yeah, so I don't administer any of the grants. Those are handled through our electric utility. So they are the experts in like project timelines, helping you with tips. If you do click the links that are in my presentation and that Kathy very helpfully Kathy Clarkin included in the chat, there are actually like download clickable links where you can see the application, what's required, get tips on what you need to have ready with your contractor if you're working with a contractor. And one thing I think I need to maybe walk back, I need to double check on whether I can give free LEDs to non-residents. I think I have to give it to Naperville residents, but I'll double check. Either way, you know how to get in touch with me and I'll give you the straight up answer if you ask. But yeah, there is money out there. We want to spend it. Any opportunity, I hope to work with people to boost that message to reach more people, because it's there for use.
And you commercial property owners have seen the list of capital providers from my slideshow. So you know that there's a ton of private equity money out there just waiting to come to you as well. No out-of-pocket expense.
Fantastic. Other questions or comments? Make sure we have a chance to pick the brains of our experts here.
Well, I was also involved on the Chicagoland Association of Realtors Sustainability Work Group. And from a private residence perspective, which I really don't handle on a daily basis, but from what I've heard, there are so many great new composting kinds of programs out there. So feel free to go online. Many of the Chicagoland programs now, most of these began in the city, but are expanding outwards and do include many of the commercial or the residential types of communities further out. Maybe Naperville's included in one of those. It's very low cost. Sorry, of course, they started mowing the lawn next door. But the composting, I think, is a very important part on behalf of each of the individual citizens of any community. So I think that's another huge big step from a waste perspective.
Well, good afternoon. If I'm allowed to say something, this is Lulu Hartenstein with the Forest Preserve District of DuPage County. So, of course, as you know, we are in the business of acquiring, preserving, protecting, and restoring natural resources. So thank you so much for your efforts, for your time. I mean, this has been an awesome presentation. And just to what the last point given here, of course, you know, if you kind of check online for us, you know, check us at DuPageForest.org. You can find many resources that will help you, you know, whether it is like plant native plants, of course, to mulching, which, you know, had to do it with like leaves right now in the fall, and a lot of different practices. As you know, we are actually moving into a new, even just a new project right now with renewable energy. And we are, some of our projects in a master plan, as we continue to move forward, we are really, we're starting to really think more about like that net zero strategy, right? As we continue to work in sustainability. So if you want also some experts on these and you want to, you know, some information, obviously that wouldn't be necessarily me. I just kind of get to plug and link. You know, we can provide some speakers for further discussions. And, you know, I will say take advantage of the Forest Preserve District, because we do have a speakers bureau. And we have many people, and you know that all these people are passionate about this mission. And it is a privilege to know that, you know, serving DuPage County, because of what you taxpayers are doing already, you know, for us to further this mission is just incredible. So thank you so much for that. And we would love to partner with you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lulu, for chiming in. Appreciate that. Just a note to pay attention to the chat. There's lots of good tips and other resources there. Kathy posted the link to the Ness website with the report. I'll post a link. I don't know if we've posted a link to the CSR committee in the toolkit, but that's coming. Maybe Linda's got some in the queue there. But other thoughts or final comments or questions?
Jeremy, I'm not sure if we answered this question. You might have, and I'm sorry, I might have missed it, but Maureen had asked, are there common mistakes that you see as people apply for assistance with programs? So any common mistakes, Ben and Anna Marie, that you see in applications?
Yeah.
Actually, in our program, not so much, because we guide, we provide enough resources in the way of fact sheets and guidebooks. So a commercial property owner actually comes to the table understanding what they need to do to apply and qualify both their property and their project under our program. However, I would say from a both a retrofit project and new construction primarily, the mistake often made is not having your capital stack in order from the beginning. So if you have a larger retrofit project and need to be doing things other than energy efficiency components, make sure you have that loan in place or that funding ready to go when you come to us for CPACE. And the same in the capital stack. You can never start too early on a new construction project, just anticipating all the various components you're going to have to move your project forward. For example, right now I have a deal that's been sitting almost 2 years because they want to do the CPACE component, but haven't had the opportunity to finalize their capital stack. And so if you're a new development, you can't rely on CPACE being your whole financing. And actually CPACE is covers the fixed improvement to a fixed asset. So it's very simply put, you have to have your foundation laid and your walls up before we can improve that building for energy efficiencies. And so it's a little later component in the capital stack to come to the table. And so that, I think, would be the #1 most common mistake that people make in considering this product. Ben, any additional things you've seen?
Yeah, so one qualifier is that I've been here just about exactly 4 months, and I don't actually see the applications that go into our electric utility. I would say, though, you know, there's information for all the programs that we shared links to, so you can look up in advance before you decide to tackle a project, whether it's a new HVAC system or new windows, attic insulation, solar panel, electric vehicle charging infrastructure. There's grants for that too. So I think just looking ahead at the guidelines, the applications that are available, and then the grants administrator, his contact information is on our website as well. So if you have any questions, you can call or email him. If you can't find it, call or email me and I'll connect you with him. His name is Bernie Sabin. He's very passionate about all these programs. One thing I would add too, we talked a little bit about reducing waste through composting. And so I come to this role from sustainability consulting in the private sector, but I had a big focus on the solid waste industry. So working for Waste Management and Republic Services, the 2 largest companies in the country. So if anybody has issues with their business, trying to figure out a recycling program or a composting program, feel free to reach out, because I've done a lot of work there and I can be a really easy, give you some really easy tips and come visit your business and help out on the ground.
Yeah, Carl.
Yeah, you know, on the question of the biggest mistake, you know, maybe this isn't a mistake, but what I see is that the biggest, quote, mistake could be people are just not aware. Business owners and our citizens, they're just not aware. And what I see is that when people become aware, they begin to really care. And I think that's a really big lever that we all have in our businesses, as well as just with our fellow citizens in improving Naperville sustainability posture and ability. So just making and talking about it is such an important part. So that whole awareness thing is just kind of a missing component. And I know Ness is very much committed to helping with that, to drive, you know, that community awareness. I know Ben is, and I believe we all are. So I think just driving this as you know, an important dynamic in our community is something we all can do.
Fantastic. Thanks, Carl. Yeah, and I think what this program has done is just given us a lot of information and given local businesses a lot of information on, one, knowing where to start, and then taking steps to continually advance and improve their efforts in sustainability. So no matter where you're at, I think that's the goal, is to take the next step, right? And so take advantage of some of these people, these resources, these incentives to help yourself and your own business, but our community, and of course the planet that we all live in. Any final thoughts or questions? We're just about right on time. So again, note the chat with all the links and contact information. And again, note that this program has been recorded and will be posted. I believe it will be on our corporate social responsibility page on the Chamber's site, which there's a link above to that. So you can find it later if you want to go back over the information and share it with others. Good. Final thoughts. I don't see any other questions. So let's thank our guests, our panelists, Casey Chitwood, Carl VanDril, Ben Mjolsness, Anna Maria Kowalik for their time and expertise. Virtual round of applause. You know how to use those emojis up there. Thank you. And again, stay tuned for other events coming up. This is the last one that the CSR committee will do for this year, but the Chamber and all of its committees are always doing fantastic events. There's a number of events happening every week, so check those out. And be sure to stay in touch. Thanks again, everyone, for attending and participating. It's been a great discussion. So take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep.